Deep technical knowledge, and we have a lot of broad business knowledge, and our approach is to try to bring those things together.
There's like the HR talent experience team, and then there's the IT team, and they're always butting heads like this. Prime for siloed people, cliques, and people talking around each other, and there being rumors, so it doesn't feel like a cohesive team a lot of the time.
The team that's focused solely on traditional IT is not positioned well to help with how technology could be more strategically used in the business, right? They care about desktop support and making sure that the network is secure.
Giving them a tool doesn't make someone successful. Being able to use that tool to solve a business problem is what makes them successful.
Where we tend to focus is kind of that layer above, where we try to take all of those technology and those tools that you have as an organization and help you leverage them at that business user level, so that you're effectively accomplishing your mission in the most efficient way possible.
Because you want every employee, from a person who's managing an office all the way to somebody out in the field or even executive level, you want all of them to be working together.
How do we optimize them? How do we bring them into a technology world where it can do things for us instead of relying on a manual process?
What I care about is that you have the right tool for the job. And so to that end, we're going to evaluate that and tell you, no, don't do it with that tool. If you're able to use technology more effectively, the people that are supposed to be focused on the mission of the organization can actually do more missional things because the tech is handling the rest.
Having a successful outcome of the project, there's no question that we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We set ourselves up as an organization that is our focus. That's our guiding light. And so it pervades everything we do. All Digital helps organizations transform their business using technology.
We help businesses use technology better so that their people work better together. Happy Wednesday.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey. Me and Mike are hanging out today. Welcome to Office Hours. We're happy to be here and chat and help in any way that we can. Just a little housekeeping before we get rolling. If this is your first time here, we do this the first Wednesday of every month. So this was just kind of our mechanism to say, hey, if you need help and you don't need something too intensive from us, you just want to ask a quick question and want to have some of that interaction with us and help from us, this is the way to do it. So yeah, Office Hours is a place for you to come, drop any questions that you have in chat, and we'll make our way through the list and basically just, yeah, have an hour with you guys to talk and review anything that's going on in your world, and then fill in any gaps with interesting thoughts that we have in the meantime. But so let that be the prompt to you to say, drop in chat, please, if there's anything you want us to get to. I think we only had one sent ahead of time that we're going to talk about, but please drop those in chat if you have any questions. We are streaming to both YouTube and Teams, so if you're in the Teams meeting and it would make sense for you to just chat with us and you'd prefer to come off mute, let us know. You can raise your hand and we'll allow you to come off mute and we can just have a conversation. YouTube, you can't quite do that. You have chat, so drop any questions, comments, thoughts in chat. So I think I'll leave it at that. The only other thing going on in our world is we are officially 1 week away from our course that we're launching called 365 Foundations. It's going to be, it's the reason we built it was because there were a lot of things that people wanted from us in regards to like project management and stuff like that. And we were like, hold on, there's like a base level understanding that we need to, things don't make sense unless we teach this base level understanding, and we need everyone to be on this same level foundation playing field with us and at the organization. And so we said, this is one, we want everyone to, like, in our perfect dream world, we can make the thing free and say, let everyone in your organization take it so that you can all kind of be on that same foundation together. And that's 1 week away, so I'm excited.
It's just another way we can try to make the world a better place, right? Yeah. Everybody gets to we're raising all the boats, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Kim, would you mind zooming in on the YouTube chat for us a little bit? That would be awesome. Okay, so one question that we got ahead of time, I see Kyle left a question, and Henry, awesome, thank you. Actually, no, I'm going to save our one on that was sent ahead if we find ourselves needing a question. We'll go to Kyle's question first. Hi, Kyle. He says, hello, I'm trying to get started with Copilot Studio pay-as-you-go pricing. I'm struggling with understanding the different environments in the Power Platform. Can explain more on video if that helps. Basically, I want my users to have the free Copilot chat, but create agents with Copilot Studio.
Free Copilot chat, but create agents with Copilot Studio.
Yeah. So that makes sense. I think you're on the right track. I'm struggling with understanding the different environments in the Power Platform. I think that's the thing that we might need a little bit more context on to be able to steer you in one direction over the other. The billing side.
That's always the hard.
That's
always the hard question with something like Copilot. I wonder if, is Matt Dressel paying attention? He's going to know the answer to that.
He probably would. Kyle did raise his hand. So yeah, Cam, you can click allow mic there, and then we should be able to chat with him. Kyle, you should be able to unmute if you want.
Yeah. So in my environment, I tried to create. I think basically how my environment is going to work is I'm going to have most of my users are going to be free Copilot chat. I don't think I can afford to pay for the full version, right? So,
yep.
But I think there's going to be a handful of select users that, $30 a month is going to be worth it for them to have access to the full work Copilot. And then trying to balance that between then how do I set up Copilot agents to allow those free chat users to be able to leverage some of the power of agents. And then, that's how I have it right now. I have 4 of the full Copilot license and everybody else on the chat.
Yep.
But then I also, somehow I created a trial, not really sure how I created a trial, but I did. So now I have a trial environment in Power Platform, and then I have my default environment. But I guess the default environment is exposed to everybody, and we're a school. So now apparently students I was reading can access my Copilot my default environment, and then there's managed environments, and I'm like, well, what's a managed environment? Do I need to convert to a managed? Do I need to create a new production environment? But I already have a ton of flows. We're using Microsoft Flow, and so those are all attached to our default environment. So I don't know, maybe this is way more than what this call is for, but went down this rabbit trail last night because I was like, well, somewhere in the admin center, I'm supposed to be able to see the usage of my Copilot chat users. How many of users are actually using it? So then I just dug into that, and then I was like, oh, great. There's different environments, and apparently I created one in February, and I created another one in April, plus my default one. So anyways, I got down a rabbit trail last night, and I was like, I need help, and I think these bold people know what they're talking about.
Yeah. But the first thing I'll say is that like Copilot and the agents is relatively new to all of us. So it's not something that we have like completely wrangled and said this is exactly how to do it. We have played around with agents before, and I think we just we built ours in a specific environment.
Well, and we all have Copilot licenses too.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there's an aspect of the default environment that like you can talk about it from a pure like Power Apps perspective. Try not to build things in the default environment
For sure.
they're for a specific use case. You can get control over them better with different environments, right?
Default environment is really intended for personalization use. So people who are automating their day-to-day tasks, sorting emails, alerting based on emails, sending approvals and things like that. If you have something that's more dedicated, you're going to want to build it in a separate environment for sure. And then if you're using, let's say, Dataverse to run a specific app, that's your underlying data store, it'll make sense to create that Copilot agent in that environment. And so that rather than in another place. And then it's a question of managing access or permissions to that agent and how you surface that to the end users. I'm pretty sure that you need some form of Copilot license to both author agents and use or interact with agents. I think that's the gist of it. But the part that I was wondering in my head is if you connect all of that stuff with a pay-as-you-go subscription, then end user licensing may not be necessary because you're just going to like pay per usage, right? So, which is basically going to be something like compute time and processing cycles. And so then you could, over the course of, let's say, 3 months, see how much you pay and whether or not it might make sense to actually, purchase a license outright for a few specific folks or for everyone for that matter.
Well, that's what I was thinking is that even what's their pay as you go thing is like $200 a month or something for 25,000. Well, you can do literal pay as you go, so it actually charges you for every month. But let's say I get 1,000 queries a month. I think it's like 10 cents a query or something. So that's still infinitely cheaper than paying for every single teacher to have their $30 a month.
Right.
So. That's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, I would certainly. So there are calculators out there that Microsoft provides that allow you to plug in some numbers and theoretically figure out what it would cost you. But ultimately, if like real usage is going to, especially with pay as you go, is going to tell you what you're going to get. I don't know on the Copilot side if. Because sometimes there can be a couple different models for pay as you go. There can be a consumption model, and then there can also be a dedicated service model is, I guess, the other way I would say it. And the consumption model is you're paying for clicks, basically, how much actual usage, whereas the other pay-as-you-go model is you have dedicated horsepower. And the benefit of that, which you pay more for it, the benefit of that is less latency, faster response time, all of that kind of stuff, because those the resources are being like dedicated for your organization. So there is a difference there. But the first option where you're truly just paying for consumption, and you probably don't really care so much if the query comes back in, half a second versus 5 seconds, that would be maybe a good place to start. Did you find any good answer? There's never a good answer from Microsoft on this stuff.
Well, I'm tracking down the agents that I built, and we have existing environments that we created. So then that makes it so that agent is eligible to be used by other people in that environment. So I think your hunch is correct. If you do stuff in the default environment, that means other people may be able to discover it, basically. Trying to see if I can find anything else helpful. Yeah. I'm going to take that one and say we should form a little bit more articulate thoughts on that one. Is there any clarification or anything that you want to dig deeper on?
I just put, can I move my existing flows that are in the default
Oh.
environment to a new environment? Um, and also, like, I think my flows fail sometimes because of like hitting some kind of limit. And I looked at the Microsoft documentation about how to about the limits, and then it gave me a headache, and I was like, that's complicated. So,
Yes,
but yeah,
is the
so that
answer, right?
question.
Yeah, the first question, you can move them. The way that I would recommend going about it would be to create a solution in your default environment, add those flows to a solution, and then you can export that solution. In this case, I would recommend unmanaged. And then you would import that solution as an unmanaged import to your target environment. And that's basically a way to pick up and move those things over. You'll have to, on the way in, it'll prompt you for setting up connections that those flows are using, for example. So you'll be logged in with the account that you want to run those flows as, for example, and get those connections squared away. But then they'll be in that environment. That's the easy way to pick them up and move them. They don't have to stay in that solution in the destination. I mean, there's a whole lot of other questions we could dive into around solution management and managing things in other environments. It sounds like if you're running those things in the default environment, like it's kind of an afterthought. Like should they have been in a solution? The next level would be, are these things, do they warrant an application lifecycle management process? Should I be building them in a dev environment, deploying them to a test environment to make sure they work correctly, and then deploying them to the production environment once they're approved? You can share a little bit more detail about what you're trying to do or what you're accomplishing with them, but that would be the next level above just picking them up and moving them out of the default environment.
Yeah, I mean, we rely on them for our business, like time off requests and check requests and things like that.
Yep.
But they're not that complex that we need a dev environment. Like
Sure.
they're pretty.
Yeah.
They're flows you can see on one page. So,
Yep.
So I think we're fine with that. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe I just need to set up a 30-minute call with you guys sometime and see if there's more to what we need to dig into. So
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the core of what, just to abstract what Mike was talking about a little bit, it's you use a solution to put everything inside of it. It's kind of like packaging up all the things that you have. So then you can lift it, put it somewhere else, and reconnect the connectors that it relies on, and it gets deployed there, and it basically will then live in a new spot. So then you don't have to go do them all individually and wire each one up individually. It kind of like wraps them up into a nice little container that you can drop somewhere else.
Yeah, that sounds way more convenient than trying to do it manually. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We do have some videos on solutions on the channel, if you go out there and search. But
Now,
yeah,
one of the things when you move, just a little tip, I don't know how tangled you made those flows, but if you started to use any Dataverse tables that exist in the default environment, which there are a bunch of built-in things there, those will want to connect to the like Dataverse tables in the destination environment. And so then if you took it even a step further and customized any of those Dataverse tables, you might have a problem there. But all of those things will have dependencies. So when you move the flow in to the solution and then you export it, it's going to say, hey, there's a dependency on this table, for example. And so it'll give you those warnings as you can actually run a solution checker that will dig up all of those warnings for you if you have any of that tangled mess to deal with. Chances are you probably don't, but just a word to the wise.
awesome. Thanks for the question. So yeah, I'll just use this moment to kind of re-prompt if anyone has any questions, things that they're working on, things that they're wondering that we might have some thoughts on. Please drop those over in chat wherever you're at. The other thing I like to say is we're kind of diving deep into Power Apps and solutions and environments, and it can easily feel technical and like, oh my gosh, I don't have something that technical. My question isn't important enough. I try to pause us and say, let's zoom out. Even if you think it's a simple question, there's no dumb questions, drop them in chat. We really want to help people here. So don't feel like there's a threshold of importance for anything. We do have another question from Henry over on YouTube. How does Slack compare to Teams? How does Trello compare to MS Planner? I found it very frustrating working with Microsoft products. Fair to be frustrated working with Microsoft products. when I compare Slack to Teams, I'm maybe a bad person because I'm jaded a little bit, but Slack to me is, well, first of all, Slack was earlier on the scene than Teams, and Teams had to play a lot of catch up. And they started from a different point of reference and a different framing for how they built their tool. Slack, I like to say, it was built for people and how they work, and like it really closely relates to the user. Teams was built for the enterprise, and they're sort of like backing into the people experience, the user experience side of things. And so that is a source of a lot of my frustration, or at least historically, they're slowly, they've come a long ways, and they have started to implement a lot of the kind of nice features that Slack might have that Teams did not have historically. But we actually use Slack internally. That's like a very strange thing that we do, being a Microsoft consulting company. But we started there because they were ahead. Teams wasn't far enough along, and now it's a little bit of a sunk cost, but like it would be an investment for us to move over. But it feels like Teams is more ready for that for us now. But yeah, that's my quick thoughts on Slack versus Teams.
If we had to make the decision today, we would use Teams and leave Slack behind.
He says we, like it would, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's much better than it was.
It's better than it was.
For sure. But yeah.
The biggest change, honestly, that puts me over that threshold is the changes they've been making to chats and channels. So the concept of a team having channels underneath it is a little bit unique compared to Slack. The interface in Teams became this long list of team with 5 channels underneath it, repeated like 15 times, and it became this really long list of stuff that's hard to sort through. It's a lot of mental load to make your way through that work, that communication, and be able to know exactly what you're supposed to do when. So what they've done is their short-term adjustment was combining chats and channels so that you could have your chats and channels kind of in one place, and you could section things and organize them. That works well for you, so it's not this big list of teams. It's more of like a concise list of chats and channels that you can categorize how you want. They've since been making some adjustments to that, where now you can have them separate still, but have your sections for your channels, which to me does the trick in a lot of regards. So what I like to do is have like a section that is top priority, clients, internal, low priority, things that allow me to be able to scan through my channels easily. So that's like a deep dive on what me in particular, what is sort of making it better according to me. But it's been a long time coming and has been a big source of frustration. How does Trello compare to MS Planner? Trello, as far as I know, doesn't have like a complex version. Trello, like in essence, is very simple. It's meant to be like you drag a Kanban board, an item from left to right, in very, very simple aspects. But then they're built on that from a company perspective, and so they add nice to have features like quality of life things to it that make it nicer to use. Planner doesn't. Planner, you can do the same, like Kanban, move something across on a table, but they don't have those nice quality of life features that Trello may have. And it's clear Microsoft is investing a lot in Microsoft, Planner Premium, previously Project for the Web, and it creates this dichotomy of buy our license if you want these quality of life features, and I don't like it. And I don't know. It's one of those things where Microsoft has lots of different tools. Their integrations are nice. Their security is nice. Their ability to support an enterprise is nice, but the user experience can suffer sometimes on the tools because they're trying to make a buck off of a license. So that's probably a source of your frustration. Summarized.
Is it fair to say that we feel Planner's probably the weakest product that Microsoft offers in comparison to other products that do the same thing?
I haven't thought about that, but perhaps, yeah.
Like if you think about Asana, Trello, Monday.com, like all of these other tools.
It's if you're looking for a great project management tool, you should. I'm making blanket statements here. Planner Premium is worth investigating. That's something that we are actively. After using MS Planner for almost 2 years, I'm ready to move on. Yeah, I would say see if Planner Premium scratches some of that itch for you of something that is a little bit more complex and full featured. But again, it's an extra license, and yeah, compared to something, there are pros and cons to all of it. Asana is going to be a better core project management tool. Monday.com is going to be a better project management tool. But it means another tool to manage. It means another license to purchase. It means another login potentially for people. And so there's pros and cons. There's no right or wrong necessarily.
Yeah,
Depends.
if I was, obviously the feature set is important, but if I was going to evaluate, the next level would be something like how well does it integrate with Microsoft tools? Can I connect to it with Power Automate? Does it have good APIs? Because the rest of my world is still going to be M365 probably.
Yeah.
And so you're going to want to know how you can connect those two worlds.
Yep. Thanks for the question. Well, we'll get off our soapbox here. Let's see. Kyle was saying, I find that the notifications in Planner are not robust enough to fully rely on. 100% agree. They're trying to, first of all, when you comment on something, it doesn't notify anybody unless they've commented on it before, or it sends it in a group mailbox, which is not helpful because that just becomes a stream of nothing super helpful. Imagine if you could configure your notifications on a Planner board. Like, that's the quality of life stuff that I'm talking about that just doesn't quite make sense. I don't know what's going on under the hood over there. Okay, so we have a question from Teams and Chewy on YouTube. Let's go to, is that Chase? It's C-H-A-S. Is it Chaz or Chase? I don't know. Either way.
Probably Chaz.
Yeah, Chaz. Thanks for joining. Question is, sorry if this is too technical, LOL. You're fine. Mike likes tech. But we could really use some help on this. In a Power Automate flow, how do we construct our OData filter on a list or library when we want to leverage applied managed metadata from our global term store? Pinning is huge. Okay, yeah.
Separate question.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good question. I have not a great answer. I don't think it's supported in the OData, in the REST API for SharePoint. I don't think you can. It'll let you apply OData filter to manage metadata columns. So
give him better news. Come on, what's?
Yeah, like
don't give just bad news.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do, but one of the things would be like, is SharePoint really the tool? Because we could do this in Dataverse maybe, and things could be better. So oftentimes we find people are trying to automate things and they're using SharePoint because it's a free data source.
You just set Patrick Starr crying. Yeah.
And so if it's a possibility, like if this is like, oh, this is an important process and this is going to live forever and it's important and it's valuable to the business, and we're only putting it at SharePoint because they don't want to pay for something, I'd seriously consider, is it worth investing in moving to Dataverse? So that would be one thing to say. But in terms of dealing with the managed metadata challenge in the SharePoint world, something you might consider doing would be adding I don't know if you could do a calculated column, but you could add a hidden column that basically you just hide it, don't show it in any of your list views or anything like that if you didn't want to see it, that would store text values of the managed metadata.
I feel like we need to like put asterisks around this like
No, I've
slightly
done
janky.
It's janky, and I've done it before. And so then you basically go in and keep those things updated. So every time a row is created or modified in SharePoint or a record, an item, you go update that field. If you could do it with a calculated column, that'd be the best way, but I don't know off the top of my head if you can actually do it. But a flow to update the item would do the same thing. But then you have like lots of extra flow runs, so I don't know how often that will become a problem. But then you could OData filter that text field to your heart's content. So that would be a workaround.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yuck.
There is a workaround, but it's a little yucky. Yeah. Okay. Over on YouTube, hey gents, I wish I could copy a channel from one team to another team and keep the history so I can archive it on past projects. Any thoughts? I agree. Those are my thoughts. As far as I know, there's not really a way to do that.
There are tools you can use to migrate the file content for a
Yeah,
channel,
yeah.
but that's about it. The chat, you would have to, like, I suppose there's probably a Graph API out there that you could call and pull the chat history in and recreate it using Graph API in another channel. But I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah,
There's not a tool.
I don't think there's like a retroactive way to post something. Like it's like when you post something, you're posting it now. It's not say make this appear like it was 3 months ago.
No, but you can do that in SharePoint there's a hidden API call that you can do that in SharePoint, so you can make things appear as though they're created or posted or published in retroactively. So like with Graph API, you ought to be able to probably do everything, but the juice may not be worth the squeeze there.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry for the not so great news again. Let's see, as a follow-up, I worked on an installation department as project manager and I use Teams Channels Planner in assigning tasks and sharing documentation. It will be great to have an integration with a PDF editor such as Bluebeam. Yeah, PDFs are a tricky thing. They're nice for delivering and making it so people can't monkey with stuff. Anytime I think about the concept of a PDF editor, besides someone just filling and signing something, I like raise a flag and I'm like, it probably wasn't ready to be a PDF or something. Like it's PDF editing is in almost like a lot of senses a little bit sketchy, but yeah, there are PDF editors out there. I imagine that slight sketchiness is a reason why they might not have something
Anymore, when I'm documenting anything, I'm using Loop.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And it has an option. You can print to PDF with it, and it does an okay job. You may not get the paging breaks that you want or the section breaks, but in terms of just being able to quickly document something well, it's the best tool.
Yeah. Brian asks, what are the top 3 things on the M365 feature wish list at Bulb Digital? Fun. That's a good question. Oh, Mike's got them. What are they?
Loop workspaces integrated with Teams.
It's here. Well, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Not yet, but that's a big one.
Yep.
What else?
I so badly wish they would continue investing in Loop to bring it closer on par with Notion. I think there's a huge gap in functionality between it and Notion, but then also in the suite. I released a video a few weeks ago about like process management. People, like we're talking to people who are doing stuff in SharePoint and Power Automate, and then you're saying, oh, maybe you need to go to Dataverse, and like those things feel so separate from each other. Like they feel it's like going down in the deep end and like feeling way more complex. And if what I know to be true in Notion was supported in Loop from like a data management and automation perspective, it would help bridge that in a big way and be be able to fill that need of like slightly more complex, but not not intimidating. So that's a big one for me. I'm bummed in general to see things kind of slow down. Yeah, that's my one.
The other one I would add on the app side of the house would be, I wish Copilot/Copilot Studio was better at Dataverse and model-driven app generation. It just falls way short.
That reminds me of, let's see, it was an analogy. Oh, it was when, yeah, Copilot, it always feels a little bit like you got to give it the side eye a little bit, and you're like, really? Like that's the answer? And you're like, you're not quite sure if you should trust it, especially like they're promoting all the image generation stuff a lot. And I told someone it reminds me of when the older lady gets access to Microsoft Publisher and starts stretching out text so that it fits and adding clip art everywhere, and you kind of get the end result and you're like, what did you do? Copilot can feel like that a little bit.
That's kind of ageist.
Yeah, right. So sorry. It's just
speaking for the
experience.
Speaking for the old people in the room.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, if Copilot was a little more sane, a little, I don't know.
It's early stages though. It's like
it is.
It'll get better.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
A couple years from now, we'll be like, there's going to be no gap. So hopefully. Let's see. Anything else? Okay. Henry said, I had an MS engineer on the call, and he told me you can't get comments unless you comment on the card first. LOL. Yeah. Yep, that's accurate. It's obnoxious. Callum said, using Planner and Teams within a global construction company to manage projects. How can I ensure version control of documents uploaded to Teams from a regularly updated external software with login, i.e. changing construction drawings with constant revisions? Well, I'm assuming you're talking something like Procore maybe, which I know integrates with SharePoint. I think there's maybe a gap between managing files and managing tasks that you might not be able to close exactly using Planner.
So
yeah.
We actually, some years ago now, we implemented essentially a drawing versioning solution all in SharePoint for one of our customers.
Yeah.
And their engineers were responsible for, like, they had a specific workflow and a process that they followed, and they would check out a document, and we set up basically automation or a process that would, along with their version control, would apply version numbering and like handle that stuff like built into the document, which could potentially be a way to do it. Like, I can conceive of a way you might do it with SharePoint.
Yeah.
So one of the things, if you're injecting things into documents, by the way, in a tool like SharePoint, you can, if you're using Word documents, for example, you can use something called quick parts, and those can surface metadata from the list item or the item in the library right in the document itself. So then you can control version numbers that appear in the document that then show up in your PDF version of the document simply by changing the metadata in the columns on those items in the list or library. So
those made me mad recently. They're only supported in Windows desktop.
Yep, they do. They don't work if you're using the web version of Word. It is a shortcoming.
Yeah.
Feature number 5 that we would like.
4?
Yeah.
4 or 5?
4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I don't know if you're going to be able to close that gap exactly. There's going to be SharePoint Teams is great at managing versioning of documents, especially when you're using their tools to edit them. It might be a little bit tricky if you're using an external tool that doesn't integrate directly with SharePoint or Teams as a file storage mechanism.
Worst case scenario, like I can think of some scenarios here where you could have a service account monitor a shared OneDrive location that the vendor can upload to, and then you could pull the file that they upload, map it to whatever file it needs to be mapped to, check the file out, update it, check it back in, like manage versions that way.
He says no Power Automate workaround.
Well, so that would be a Power Automate workaround, right? So it would be monitor a location for the new file, pick it up with Power Automate, map it to the destination file properly, however that works. Could be just file name, that's fine. Check out the destination file, upload the new one, check it back in, update a version number if you want to in metadata somewhere, but that would also, if you're using check in, check out, that would automatically version. It would give you a major version if you checked it in just from SharePoint. But one of the caveats there is the people that I've worked with in the past where they're like, we want a version number update. They're never okay with the SharePoint version number, by the way. They always want their own, they have their own version naming system. And so that's why that SharePoint on its own may not be full coverage of your requirement.
All right, thanks for the question. I just realized we're almost 3/4 of the way done. Time has kind of flown. So I'm going to pause this, reset, and say, hi, I'm Mitch. This is Mike. If we haven't met before, we're from Bulb Digital. We are here to help. If you have any Microsoft 365 or related, workplace type questions, we're happy to, entertain the questions, see if we can help get you unstuck on anything you're working on. And you just drop them in chat, and we kind of just make our way through chat and try to help everyone that shows up. All right.
Do Jay's question next. We touched on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there a good way to make a Loop workspace for a team instead of linking a personal workspace and adding all the team members manually? Hate to think what happens in the workspace owner leaves.
Drum roll. In Teams, public preview right now, so you need to be on like the preview builds. You can go into a channel and click the plus button to add like an app. If you select a Loop, it will walk you through a workspace creation process that ties that Loop workspace to that team, and it no longer creates its own what's it called, the roster security where you need to add everyone manually. It will create basically a strong link between the Loop workspace, and it will rely on the team membership for permissions then. And so it's tightly integrated, and you can actually pull up that Loop workspace right within Teams, which is super convenient. So that is right on the horizon. We have actually been advising our customers to maybe hold off if you haven't enabled Loop yet, to say hold off, wait until that it supports that, because we're big proponents of create teams, create channels, make that be your knowledge base for collaboration. And with this feature, you can. There's no good way to migrate it. If you create it the way that you're talking about, you have to like copy and paste stuff into the new workspace. And so we've been saying, hold on, pump the brakes. You might want to wait. Yes, Sashi says, I just created a new workspace. Yeah, I mean, there's not like, you can be successful with that workspace. It's just a little bit of extra work to keep permissions synced and whatnot. But if you're early in the process and you have preview, you could try it out.
What's a little extra work?
Yeah. So there's good news on the horizon. I hope they have a better answer for migrating stuff at some point. All right, we have a couple other questions with about 10, 15 minutes to go. So let's see. Chaz said you can pull Teams channels chat into a list using Power Automate and export it to Excel. You could store on the target Teams channel for references search. Not a great solution, but still, yeah. So they're speaking to
Migration of the
migrating
chat.
a Teams. Yeah, so while you wouldn't be able to like scroll through it in the interface, the information is stored somewhere, and you could make your way through it and try to find conversations just in a slightly different interface. Any insight on the future of Loop versus OneNote? There's a lot of overlap, but OneNote has a lot of useful organizational features, and Loop is a little bit wild west in terms of organizing like-kind loops together. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. I think my answer on this is it's like changing by the moment, it feels like, because Loop had a ton of momentum over the last year. And if you didn't see, they announced the new M365 Copilot app, which integrates some things like Copilot Pages, which is Loop under the hood, into it. And they're clearly like investing in that tool. And so, yeah, as far as functionality goes, I still will say Loop wins hands down. I've never liked OneNote's formatting in structure, really. Loop takes a lot of the mental load out of it, where you just click, you type, you can format it between like 3 different options, and it looks good. And just that, we almost need to prevent ourselves from overthinking the styling and the formatting, and say what's most important here is the core of what we're trying to relay, and try to make it as simple as possible. Mm-hmm. And so Loop helps us a lot with that. We've actually used it to present options for like proposals and things like that, and just scrolling through it, and it gives us that alternative to something like Microsoft Word or OneNote when we want to go through something textual. Yeah, organizational features. Loop is a little bit of Wild Wild West. I think there's, like we talked about, the Teams integration. I think they're slowly starting to bring a little bit of structure to that. But again, I may be a bad person to ask, but I like Wild Wild West a little bit. I like to give people elbow room to go break things and make things. So yeah, obviously with that territory comes messiness and sprawl and things like that. But
I've never, like you, I've never liked OneNote.
Yeah.
The storage model, the tabs and the pages, just ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a strong case for a team-owned Loop, and trying that before you write off Loop. Thanks for the question. Ryan on YouTube says, new to M365. We use email, Excel, and Teams for meetings. We want to use Teams as a hub with Loop and Planner. What license level supports that? Do you know about I've always sidestepped license questions.
Yeah, I know I'm not the licensing expert either, but we do have somebody behind the desk who might know. Cam, do you happen to know? Is this just E3 covers you and you're good enough? Yeah, I think E3. E5 certainly. I know E5 will. E5 will get you Teams Premium, I think, which you don't necessarily need for what you're asking. But I think an E3 license will cover you to get you that far. But if you have project managers and they need to take notes in meetings and stuff like that, you might want to consider Teams Premium, because then they can use Copilot, and that's fun.
Good question. You're on a good mission. We promote that, that migration, that effort, that momentum quite a lot. So best of luck on your journey. And if we can be of any help, let us know. We have some content out there that might be able to help you. So another question we have about 10 minutes. Drop any last minute questions in chat. Callum says, question 2, can't find a workaround to basic plan calendar synced to Outlook, then synced to premium plan. Yeah, so let me try to think if I don't think I've done that. So under the hood of Planner Premium is Dataverse, which introduces, for Power Automate, you need premium connectors and things like that. There are not good triggers for Planner. It is only when a task is created, when I'm assigned a task, or when it's completed. So if someone updates a description or changes the title of something, you can't, Power Automate does not know about that. And so a lot of times that has prevented us from doing anything too tricky to
enhance Planner to make it work with everything else. You can't.
Yeah.
I like my workaround for this, if you want like free and you don't want to pay for the extra stuff, is consider building your own task management list in SharePoint, and you can turn it into a Kanban board and move things across the board, and you can trigger on all kinds of stuff with Power Automate out of SharePoint.
Want to see Plan and Outlook, can only do that in Basic. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, to me, that is a feature gap. I don't know if they're going to close that gap or not. What I have started to do in some of those, in some of those situations is I'll do something like when something is assigned to me that I'll create a, this is from like our CRM tool. I'll create a task in my to-do, in my like personal planner, and then we can use that to at least feed my list that would show up in like tasks or to-do and in Outlook and something like that. But it doesn't, there's not a sync. There's not a way for it to smartly stay updated with things.
Well, then he's also calling out that he can't do it with Premium right now, which I don't know if that's on the way or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard about it, so I'm assuming, well, I don't know. I'm too jaded about Planner.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions out on the web about this same thing too.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. No problem. Kyle had left a note. Are notifications better in Planner Premium? They're different. Like you're gonna get notified when you get assigned to things and stuff like that. The thing that they did was, instead of a commenting system built into Planner that they would send notifications about, what they did was allow you to go into a task and basically generate a Teams message, a Teams thread about that. So if you have like a channel and you create a Planner Premium in a channel and you create a conversation on a task, that should show up in your channel in Teams. So then you could rely on Teams for notifications for those messages. So they're sort of offloading that that work, that interaction and facilitation to Teams, which I get it. I think that it makes sense. There's a little bit of jankiness if one team has multiple planner boards and it doesn't know which one is, or if one planner board is shared to multiple teams. Like,
which one does it belong to?
Yeah, they don't have a good way to say, when I'm creating this conversation, make sure it goes in this channel, which I think is a miss. But yeah, it's just add it to the list. Cool. Well, I don't see any other questions. I'll give people like I'll just talk for 30 more seconds, and if I don't see any come in, we'll wrap things up. But Craig raised his hand. Let's let Craig come off mute. There you go.
Hi guys.
Hey, Craig.
Thank you guys again for doing your monthly meeting here. It's so beneficial hearing the perspective of folks in your field, helping us lesser experienced folks get a better handle on the monster that Microsoft offers us to use. So I was trying to put some questions in, and I don't know that they made it in the Q&A.
We haven't looked at the Q&A. Yeah, we usually just look at the chat, so sorry about that.
Well, my chat says only available during meeting, and I can't type in it either in the pop-out window for the player or the actual web page that Teams was launched from. So I like sort of stuck. So
okay, I do see.
So Q&A, please.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, how does Teams/Planner compare to a site like Teamwork.com, which offers highly organized project management / tracking features? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to what I was saying before, in that Planner Premium is where you're going to feel like like they're investing their time and they're going to have those quality of life features, and it's gonna work a little bit closer in functionality to a proprietary, a third party tool. I don't know. I haven't used teamwork.com. I know there are some tools like that that will like use Planner under the hood and try to add features to it. And there's lots of different schools on that, schools of thought. The approach that I normally give is, if you're happy with a project management tool and it works well and you like all the features and you're okay with kind of jumping over to another tool, please stay with that tool, because you will probably get frustrated by lack of ability. Like if honestly, if the tool that you're using, the third party tool, is 100% baked, Planner's gonna feel like it's like 80% baked, and that 20% can be really annoying. But a lot of people are just fine with the 80%. So there's nothing wrong with going and trying the two different tools and seeing if there are important gaps like that. But it's not gonna be up to par with some of those other tools. So it really depends on how particular you are, how full-fledged features you want, and how much you care about the integrations that exist in the Microsoft tools.
Yeah, if it's well integrated, stick with the other tool.
Yeah,
because generally they don't compare. Like if just Teams/Planner, like they don't measure up.
yeah,
They're task management light.
yeah, yeah. We sort of view it as even Planner Basic. Lots of people can get a lot of meaningful work done in those tools and be just fine. But that doesn't mean the tool is perfect. Like we use the tools actively. We struggle with some of the features and things that we wish it did differently, but we still get work done, and we have smart people that are capable of working around the limitations. Right. And so we're okay with that caveat, with that, right, with giving up that the nice to have features. So, right.
But if you need better notifications, enterprise level reporting and status, resource leveling, like there's all of those other things, you're going to need something more than just premium or just Planner Basic.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think that will do it for us today. I'll go ahead and wrap us up. If any of this is helpful to y'all, you'll get an email after the fact if you registered with a little note saying, hey, leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you if we were able to help today. Otherwise, join our newsletter. Maybe Livy can drop our newsletter link in the chat so that you can hear about the course that we're releasing next week. We're super excited about that. I was just recording for it before we came over here. So you'll see things about that from us. Yeah, Brian says excited for foundations. Awesome. Yeah, no problem, you all. Thanks for joining. We do this every month, so there's a link that Libby dropped earlier in chat. You're welcome to register for our next office hours. But until then, Mike and I are going to go get back to work.
That's right.
And keep going.
Go have some fun.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you.